The air crackled with an unseen energy. A chill wind whispered through the trees, carrying a silent dread. The old house stood on the hill, a silhouette against the blood-red sunset. It was a place of shadows and secrets, where whispers danced in the darkness. Stories that will chill you to your core and leave you questioning the darkness. Are you brave enough to face the unseen terror? For what you are about to read is not for the faint of heart. The old Victorian house creaked and groaned under the weight of its years. Sarah, a young woman with eyes full of curiosity, had just inherited the house from her grandmother. She had always been drawn to its faded grandeur, its air of mystery. But she was unprepared for the whispers. It started subtly, faint rustling sounds coming from the attic, just beyond the reach of her hearing. A cold spot in the hallway, even on the warmest of days. Then, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to call her name, beckoning her towards the attic door. One night, unable to resist the pull any longer, Sarah climbed the creaking stairs to the attic. Dust motes danced in the single beam of light from her flashlight, illuminating forgotten furniture and cobweb-draped boxes. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and the weight of unseen eyes. And then she saw it. On a desolate stretch of highway, under a moonless sky, a lone car sped through the night. Inside, John, a weary traveler, fought to stay awake. He had been driving for hours, the monotony of the road lulling him into a dangerous drowsiness. That's when he saw her. A young woman in a white dress, standing by the side of the road, her thumb extended in a desperate plea for a ride. John, his better judgment clouded by fatigue and a pang of sympathy, pulled over. The woman got in, her face obscured by the shadows. She spoke little, her voice a soft murmur that sent shivers down John's spine. She gave him directions to a remote town, her words disjointed and strange. As they drove, John felt an icy hand grip his arm, her touch sending a jolt of fear through him. He glanced at her, his heart pounding in his chest. But she was gone. Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, nestled among towering trees and shrouded in an unnatural silence, stood a dilapidated cabin. It had been abandoned for years, its windows boarded up, its door hanging precariously from its hinges. Locals whispered tales of the family that had once lived there, of the unspeakable horrors that had befallen them within its walls. One summer, a group of friends, eager for adventure and oblivious to the dark history of the cabin, decided to spend a weekend there. They dismissed the local legends as mere superstition, their laughter echoing through the silent woods as they unpacked their car. But as darkness fell, the laughter died in their throats. Strange noises emanated from the woods, animalistic growls and the snapping of twigs. The temperature plummeted, a bone-chilling cold seeping into the cabin despite the roaring fire in the hearth. And then, the scratching began. Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her mouth to stifle a scream. There, in the far corner of the attic, was a small, ornate mirror, its silver frame tarnished with age. It seemed to pulse with an eerie light, drawing her gaze like a moth to a flame. As she took a step closer, the whispers intensified, swirling around her like a malevolent wind. She reached out, her fingers trembling, and touched the cold glass. The moment her skin made contact, the mirror flared, a blinding white light engulfing the room. Sarah shielded her eyes, her heart pounding against her ribs. When the light subsided, she was no longer in the attic. She found herself in a dusty, cobwebbed room, the air thick with the scent of decay and the lingering aroma of lavender. A single flickering candle illuminated a small wooden table, upon which lay a worn leather-bound journal. The whispers were gone, replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to hum with unseen energy. John slammed on the brakes, his car skidding to a stop on the deserted highway. His heart hammered in his chest, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looked around frantically, but the woman was gone. The passenger seat was empty, as if she had never been there at all. He stumbled out of the car, his legs shaky beneath him. The air was deathly still. the silence broken only by the pounding of his own blood in his ears. He called out, his voice hoarse with fear, but there was no answer. Only the echo of his own terror bounced back from the surrounding darkness. John got back in the car, his hands trembling as he gripped the steering wheel. He had no idea where he was, how far he had driven, or even if the woman had been real. All he knew was that he had to get out of there, to escape the suffocating grip of fear that threatened to consume him. Inside the cabin, the friends huddled together, their faces pale with terror. The scratching continued, relentless and maddening, coming from the wall behind the old stone fireplace. It was as if something was trying to claw its way through, its unseen claws scraping against the wood. One of the friends, a young man named Mark, couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed a heavy iron poker from beside the fireplace and approached the wall, his face a mask of determination. The scratching stopped. In the sudden silence, Mark swung the poker with all his might, smashing it against the wall. The wood splintered and cracked, revealing a small, dark space behind it. And in that space, staring back at them with empty, soulless eyes, was a human skull. The friends screamed, their terror echoing through the silent woods. They had stumbled upon something dark and evil, something buried long ago but not forgotten. Sarah cautiously approached the table, her hand hovering over the journal. She could feel a presence in the room, unseen but palpable, watching her every move. Taking a deep breath, she opened the journal and began to read. The faded ink spoke of a young woman named Elizabeth, who had lived in the house over a century ago. Elizabeth had been a gifted artist, her portraits capturing the souls of her subjects, but her talent had come at a price. She had made a deal with a dark entity, trading her soul for the ability to see and paint the true essence of her subjects. As Sarah read, she felt a cold draft on the back of her neck, as if someone was standing behind her. She slowly turned, her heart pounding in her chest. And there, staring at her from the other side of the dusty window, was the face of a young woman. Her eyes, wide and filled with a terrible longing, met Sarah's across the chasm of time. John finally reached a small town, its lights a welcome beacon in the darkness. He pulled into a gas station, his body trembling with exhaustion and fear. He got out of the car, his legs stiff and aching, and stumbled into the brightly lit store. The cashier, an elderly man with kind eyes, looked at him with concern. John, desperate for human contact, poured out his story, his voice shaking as he spoke of the hitchhiker, the icy grip on his arm, her sudden disappearance. The old man listened patiently, his expression grave. "You're not the first to tell that tale," he said, his voice low and somber. "They say a young woman died on this highway years ago, killed in a hit and run. They say she wanders the road still, searching for a ride, seeking vengeance on those who pass her by." The friends fled the cabin, their screams echoing through the silent woods. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of their car, the engine roaring to life like a lifeline in the darkness. As they sped away, they could see the cabin receding in the rearview mirror, its dark silhouette a chilling reminder of the horrors they had witnessed. They never spoke of that night again, the memory too terrible to share, but they were forever changed, haunted by the echoes of their fear, the chilling realization that some things are best left buried, some secrets best left undisturbed. The cabin remained abandoned, a silent testament to the darkness that lurked within its walls, a grim reminder that some places are forever stained with the blood of the innocent. Sarah slammed the journal shut, the image of the woman in the window seared into her mind. She stumbled back from the table, her breath catching in her throat. The candle flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Panic welled up inside her, threatening to consume her. She had to get out of there, to escape the suffocating grip of the past. As she fumbled for the doorknob, she could hear the whispers again, taunting her. Sarah burst out of the room, her footsteps echoing through the silent house. She threw it open and stumbled outside, gasping for breath. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the lawn. She knew the house would never let her go, forever bound to its legacy of horror.